a lot going on. I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with this right here.
Everyone thinks the future of clean energy is only on your roof. But what if I told you that the real future of home... So right now it's kind of mayhem. We're not part of the activists, but we're here just reporting on them. Did they explain to you why they're here? They did not. They said that there's someone here with Easterwood, someone who is a member of ICE and he's a pastor of the church. Our church had gathered for worship, which we do every Sunday. We asked them to leave, and they obviously have not left. So this is what the First Amendment is about the freedom to protest. There's varying array of views in this church on politics of immigration. Recognize the complexity of the issue. This shows you just how divided America is. When you look at the protesters here, and then you look at the people there who are praying, and you know what is the interesting thing? If these two groups could just get together, they might figure out what to do. All right, that is video of the day that law enforcement and the feds now are focused on as Don Lemon has been arrested as of late yesterday. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is going to be holding a press conference at 11 o'clock Eastern Time in Washington, D.C. on the arrest of Don Lemon and 3 others. We just saw, as we were bumping in here, another piece of video where Don Lemon says,
This here is gonna be Don Lemon arrested and more. What up, Mark Harris? How you doing, partner? It's just a whole bunch of shit going on today, man. You got people doing protests all over the place. You got Minneapolis going to hell. Make no damn sense.
On this story covering this protest operation.
And this is MS Now.
In St. Paul, Minnesota. He was at that point outside the city's church. That protest moved inside the city's church, where there's lots of video of Don Lemon interviewing people, including the pastor. This was January 8th.
And I got to pause this for a second. Hell yeah, me too. I hope you got a kerosene heater, brother. But the reason I paused is because everything with Don Lemon was fine until he went up inside that church. As soon as he went up inside that church, that's when Don Lemon fucked up at.
This was a week after the killing of Renee Good, and maybe about a week before the killing of Alex Preddy. And Don Lemon, of course, covering the protests of the ICE operations in the community, causing chaos, tremendous fear, breaking up families, and of course leading to the deaths of 2 U.S. citizens on the streets of Minneapolis. So these protests were very real, and the community was very tense and nervous and frightened. He live streamed all of his reporting, so that of course will be used in this trial by both sides, I would assume at this point. But once again, former CNN anchor Don Lemon arrested by federal authorities along with 3 others in connection to his coverage of protest. Jonathan Lemire.
One of the others, a woman named Georgia Foote, also an independent journalist. So there are 2 journalists now arrested coming on the heels of a raid of a Washington Post reporter's home just a few weeks ago. And Lisa, we had a post from the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, taking credit for this arrest, saying in my direction this was carried out. She said, more details soon. You have a little more.
See, knows they're saying that Pam Bundy's direction. No, this was not at the direction of Pam Bundy. This was done at the direction of Donald J. Trump. If you're gonna quote something, quote it right. Let's continue.
As to when and how we may learn those details. What else are you finding as you're reviewing the documents?
Well, I will tell you, Jonathan, that a source close to Don Lemon is telling MS Now that while we woke up to his arrest feeling a little bit surprised, he believed the government would try again. This was something that they were prepared for. They understood that after a judge rejected charges against Don Lemon and 5 others last week, and then the Department of Justice.
What they used, Mark Harris, was something called the Ku Klux Klan Act. Is what they use. Now, the this whole thing with Don Lemon is political. It is political by Donald Trump. That's basically what this is. It is a political hit job on the journalists. Now, do I believe that Don Lemon should have been arrested? Yes, but Don Lemon should only be arrested for trespassing. Nothing more, nothing less. What Don Lemon did was trespassing. Now, this federal charge, to me, is overreach. But that's just me.
Tried to compel the chief judge of the district to sort of reverse that decision, and they failed at that too. Don Lemon understood that the Department of Justice was undeterred, and so they were prepared for this moment, even though he was arrested late last night in Los Angeles as he was preparing to cover the Grammys this weekend. I can also tell you that Todd Blanche, as Mika noted, is holding a press conference this morning at 11 a.m. Our Laura Barone Lopez will be in attendance at that press conference. We don't know for sure that the subject of that press conference are these arrests, but certainly based on the Attorney General's statement this morning, the sort of crowing by a Deputy White House Chief of Staff, James Blair, on X, it would seem that this is going to be the Department of Justice's opportunity to unveil the charges against Don Lemon and others and take what it seems like they believe is a victory lap in vindicating what they believe are the First Amendment rights at stake here. Yet again, we look at the video and we don't see any force or threatened force by Don Lemon, or for that matter,
Are there
anybody
any
else.
laws about churches? What would you look at here as what potentially could give them grounds?
Well, the FACE Act, as we were discussing, which is fundamentally passed to protect access to abortion clinics and other reproductive health clinics,
Right.
has a provision inside that also protects people against the use of force or threatened force in the exercise of their religious worship rights. And so it criminalizes somebody who by force or threatened force blocks access to or
Yeah.
interferes with somebody's ability to religiously worship. It hasn't traditionally, Mika, been used for that purpose, but this is a Department of Justice who has been saying for months, we're not going to use the FACE Act to prosecute people who
Right.
block abortion clinics. We are going to use it
You
here.
use the word force, so and luckily, what journalists do when they're covering events live.
Here's what I think, Mark. There was another content creator that said the same thing that I've been thinking but never said out loud. Minnesota, and her name is Take Heed to the Message. She basically said that Minnesota will be the first state to have troops on American soil. And by the way it's looking, Trump will call in the military at the first chance he has. Because because Trump's not going to pull ICE out of Minnesota. The reason Trump's not going to pull ICE out of Minnesota because Trump will see him pulling ICE has him taking an L. And the way that Trump is not going to take an L for nobody. That's the reason ICE has not been pulled out of the state of Minnesota. See, and then another thing with Trump does not believe in a tactical retreat neither. So, cause in his mind, a tactical retreat is a failure. See, you got to look at trying, look at how Trump sees it. Trump sees this as I gotta win, I gotta win, I gotta win. Well, yeah, pride is a part of it, but some of it is arrogance as well. It's pride and arrogance when you're dealing with somebody like Trump. Let's get back into this.
Is they cover them live on video and they live stream what they're doing, and that's what Don Lemon did. So we'll be able to see what happened, just like in a lot of the other cases that are causing a lot of concern and fear and chaos across the country. There's lots of video of what happened. Independent journalist Georgia Fort posted a Facebook Live video detailing her arrest moments before she surrendered to federal officers at 6:30 a.m. this morning. Here's part of it.
To the point where literally anyone
Okay,
can
hold
fully
on.
working app without knowing how to code.
Hold on,
This is
brother.
big.
Here we go.
You guys, I wanted to alert the public that agents are at my door right now. They're saying that they were able to go before a grand jury sometime, I guess, in the last 24 hours, and that they have a warrant for my arrest. I've talked to my attorney, and I'm being advised to go with them, I guess, down to Whipple.
Now, here's the thing. I can understand why they would go for Don Lemon. But the thing that I want to know is, why did the federal government come for this lady? That's what I want to know. Why did they come for her?
Georgia Fort covering her own arrest, and she also posted
Yeah, she posted. We're looking at it now, but it looks like she posted some Nest camera. Like
her
this
Ring
security
camera.
camera.
All right,
Agents
so
coming to the door.
Michelle Norris, I want to look at this. I brought up a great point. Look at this through the lens of First Amendment protections, especially for journalists. What's going on here?
Well, this is going to be the question, before the courts here. They were covering an event. It happened in a church, and that is a complicating factor. That it happened in a church. And we just need to say that. But, a judge that Molly mentioned, Patrick Schlitz, who was the judge that would not sign the warrant when this was first put before him. We should note, very conservative judge. When this happened, Donald Trump had said that he was an activist judge, obviously didn't know his background. He is someone who clerked for Scalia, appointed by Bush, was the dean at the St. Thomas Law School in Minnesota, not someone that you would traditionally call an activist judge, and saw no merit in this case. So this is, they're both independent journalists. Georgia Fort, much less lower profile than Don Lemon has. But this is clearly meant to send a message to journalists, but I think it's also an attempt to control the narrative.
Yep.
There are so many things that we aren't talking about because we're spending time talking
All
about
about
this.
good old
We're
control.
not talking about what's happening in Minnesota right now, where ICE agents are still roaming the streets and standing outside of schools and attempting to deport parents when they're dropping their kids off at schools. We're not talking about the general strike that was planned
Right.
for the state. There are so many things that we're not talking about, and it's an interesting use of this video in particular, because it happens at a church, complicates the case in terms of trying to adjudicate this, but in terms of a potent message, particularly to their base, seeing this happen in a church, I think that they may be banking on the fact that people will look at this and say, I don't want this to happen in my sanctuary. That feels very uncomfortable to me. I don't like what's happening on the streets of Minneapolis, but I don't like that either. And I think it is a clear attempt to change the subject, but also to basically create a sort of new flank of battle in the war
Right.
for public opinion. And
Yeah.
those
Right.
images maybe particularly potent, not just to people on the right, but to anyone who enjoys the sanctity of the places where they worship. And I think they understand that, and that's why they've done this.
I think that you make a great point, especially on the political level. This is absolutely something that we can agree could be quite potent for them.
Alloy sink wrench for tight spaces, a set of 2, 7 notches, fits various hose screw sizes.
Lots to cover this morning with our reporters and analysts. Let's bring in MS Now reporter Alex Tabbitt in Minneapolis, MS Now White House reporter Jake Traylor, former U.S. attorney and MS Now legal analyst Joyce Vance, and former ICE chief of staff Jason Hauser. Alex, President Trump attacking Alex Preddy as federal agents arrest journalist Don Lemon. What do we know?
Well, Anna, we know that last night, former CNN anchor and journalist Don Lemon was arrested by federal agents on charges that he violated federal law during a protest here in the Twin Cities on January 18th. On January 18th, Lemon reported on a protest at the city's church in St. Paul, where an ICE official serves as a pastor. Now, we know that 3 other people who disrupted that same church service have also been arrested. And according to a DHS spokesperson, Don Lemon is being charged with conspiracy to deprive rights and violation of the of FACE. That means interfering by force of someone's First Amendment rights. Now, I want to read you a statement from Don Lemon's lawyer. It reads, quote, Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards. It later goes on to read, instead of investigating the federal agents who killed 2 peaceful Minnesota protesters, the Trump Justice Department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing the administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. Anna?
Jake, Lemon, we know, has been a Trump antagonist for years. Going back to the first administration, what has the administration now been saying about him and his actions in Minnesota?
Yeah, Anna, I was prepared to tell you that we've not yet heard an official statement of any kind from the White House or from the president, but literally just minutes ago, we're seeing a post from the White House. This is kind of their first official response or reaction to the arresting of Lemon. They posted a photo of Lemon that is a photo of him inside the church with the caption, Don Lemon arrested. And the actual caption of the post says, when life gives you lemons, and then a chain emoji following. To go back briefly, this is a relationship between President Trump and Don Lemon that has long been contentious. Over the past week since the protests in the church that Lemon was a part of, the president wasn't as direct in language, but reposted multiple Truth Social posts online calling for the arrest of Lemon. And then, of course, we're seeing that take place now. I'd highly expect for the president to post something on Truth Social more particularly noted to Lemon later on today. But this is the first comment we're seeing from the White House just moments ago, this image of Lemon and the caption, when life gives you lemons.
Joyce, let me read the post from Attorney General Pam Bondi this morning. She writes, at my direction, early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamil.
It was not at Trump's it was not at Bundy's direction. It was at Trump's direction. If y'all gonna quote something, quote it right. Reading between the lines, people.
Liddell Lundy in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. More details soon. So she says it was at her direction. We've now learned that Lemon will be charged with conspiracy to deprive rights, interfering by force of someone's First Amendment, and those First Amendment rights. What do these charges suggest to you?
So these are charges that I have indicted, but not frequently. No federal prosecutor uses these with frequency because they require, in the case of the civil rights charge, a level of intent. In the case of the FACE Act violation, which applies to reproductive health care clinics as well as to religious spaces, it requires the use of force or intimidation. And let's just be clear about something. No jury will convict on these charges unless there are unknown facts about the use of force in this setting. So what this really is about it's about intimidating the free press. It's about intimidating First Amendment. We've seen this Justice Department. It really seems to have a penchant for indicting cases that it cannot convict in. From the sandwich thrower to the Jim Comey failed prosecution in the Eastern District of Virginia, this feels like more of the president's revenge agenda, even though the Attorney General says that the case was indicted on her orders. And something we're seeing increasingly from this Justice Department is that they're willing to inflict pain through the process of criminal investigation and criminal indictment upon people that they perceive as enemies, even in cases where a conviction is very unlikely.
I want to bring in MS Now senior investigative reporter Carol Lenig. And Carol, you have some new reporting about the prosecutors in this case. What can you tell us?
Yeah, what we've been hearing for really a week and a half has been concern among prosecutors in Minnesota about the way this office has basically been hijacked by the Deputy Attorney General and the Attorney General's office. There is an acting U.S. attorney there named Dan Rosen, and he has no experience as a prosecutor, which will sound familiar to a lot of you on the panel because that was one of the major problems in the Eastern District of Virginia. But the new news here is that those prosecutors with concerns about the immigration arrests and whether or not those were legal, they are also very concerned and declined to participate in this because they don't believe the Don Lemon charges will actually stand up, just as Joyce just referred to. This use of force or the threat of force is not evident in any of the evidence according to our sources.
Right.
Federal prosecutors in Los Angeles also registered concern, and some of them declined to participate in this because, again, they have a duty of candor to the court. They don't feel comfortable bringing cases and pursuing cases where they do not think the facts line up with the charges.
And as you touched on, this isn't the first time we've seen career prosecutors buck orders from Maine justice. How would you say, Carol, this compares?
Well, I think it's very worrisome because it shows, one, that the Department of Justice, via the president, is going to continue directing who is targeted.
You EV with me.
I found it on cars.com.
Southern fried chicken or shrimp? Why not both? Who's got the sauce? Zach's, please.
Use whatever means that are at their disposal. Whether or not convictions are ever achieved, to echo Joyce, seems almost irrelevant and unlikely, to be fair. The career prosecutors that I've spoken to, the sources I've spoken to across this huge Department of Justice are kind of beside themselves. Like, when is it going to end? When is this idea of using our Justice Department, which is supposed to be based on facts and law, when is it going to stick to that norm and that expectation that the U.S. public has?
Do we know which U.S. Attorney's Office brought this arrest warrant?
So I would rather not delve into what we don't have absolutely firm, but I can say that my understanding is there are some cases in Minnesota that we're looking at that appear to be this one, but I would rather not speak about something we don't have absolutely certain.
Carol, thank you so much. We'll let you continue to do the reporting and be in contact with your sources. Come back to us as you confirm more information, please. Joyce, still so much we don't know. However, we have seen this Justice Department go after perceived political foes. This does feel like an escalation, doesn't it, when it comes down to going after a journalist?
Absolutely, and that's the entire point here. This administration has a knack for trying to isolate people it believes won't be sympathetic to the public. So, for instance, going after people who don't have citizenship in this country and trying to single them out for due process violations was an early example of that. Now they're going for journalists who are independent journalists, hoping that perhaps people won't be sympathetic either for that reason, or because they were involved in something that took place in a church. That's a great first place, I suspect, in this administration's point of view to start with eroding the free press. So that's very much what we're seeing here.
I just want to read one chunk and reiterate what Abby Lowell, Don Lemon's attorney, said in his statement. He says the First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. There's no more important time for people like Don to be doing his work. Joyce, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. The First Amendment is one of the most important constitutional guarantees that upholds our democracy. And Thomas Jefferson sort of famously said that if he had a choice between the three primary democratic institutions, Congress, the courts, and the president, and if he had to
let one of them go in order to have a free press, he would choose the free press. It's so important to have sunlight. It's often been said it's the best disinfectant. It prevents corruption, it prevents incompetence, it prevents abuse. And we understand in this moment how critically important journalism and a free press is for Americans to understand what's going on. Of course, this is an administration that does not like the free press. I don't think any administration loves being criticized, but this one is determined to tamp down on it in ways that directly conflict with First Amendment guarantees. And these cases will not do well in the courts for that reason precisely.
I mean, Joyce, we already saw a magistrate judge reject arrest warrants for Don Lemon and others because of that First Amendment right. So there wasn't evidence to bring these types of charges. So what changed?
Well, what changed is that prosecutors went in front of a grand jury. The Bureau made a really important point here that the acting U.S. attorney in Minneapolis, not yet Senate confirmed, is someone who has experience as a lawyer but doesn't have experience as a criminal prosecutor. And having made the shift early in my career from a civil lawyer to a criminal lawyer, that's a pretty steep learning curve. The most important part of it is that burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a very high standard prosecutors have to meet to get convictions in courts. But it's easy to go in front of a grand jury and get an indictment, and that appears to be exactly what happened here. The traditional standard at DOJ is that you shouldn't indict a case unless you believe you have sufficient evidence to both obtain a conviction and to sustain it on appeal. But that long-standing rule seems to be out the window under this administration.
And here we go. We're going to go to KARE 11. Let's get it.
What do you get when DigiKey sends us one exciting new part and no limitations?
We're about to find out.
Hold on, let me speed this up. It should be speaking in a little bit. Hold on.
This to happen.
Hold on.
This to happen. If we allow this to happen, if we don't speak up in the loudest voice, all of our so-called freedoms, our illusion of freedom goes away. So, I know I didn't introduce myself when I started. My name is Harry Colbert Jr. I am the Vice President for the Center of Broadcast Journalism and Power 104.7. Georgia Fort is our president of the Center of Broadcast Journalism, and she has her own entity, Black Press at Georgia Fort. With that being said, I'm first going to ask a longtime activist, a past president of the NAACP, to speak. We're going to have several members of the media that are going to come and speak to you, and then a couple of members of Georgia's family would like to make brief statements.
Grace and peace, everyone. Again, my name is Leslie E. Redmond, and I cannot tell you how outraged I am to be standing in this same place again. For many of us, we still here in 2020 after the murder of Brother George Floyd. We stayed here too many times to count, and we said then that it was a state of emergency. I want you all to know that the emergency is still ongoing. When you have journalists being arrested for reporting, when you have truth tellers being held captive, we are under a state of emergency. And you're going to have to ask yourself, what are you doing right now? We talk about what we would have done if we were around when slavery was going on in the Underground Railroad. Well, this is it right now. We are under attack. Georgia's family is here. And I want to tell you all that I was talking to Sister Georgia, and she was afraid of being arrested. And I told her, they're not going to arrest journalists. They tried that with Don Lemon. It didn't work. And now Don Lemon and Georgia Fort are under arrest. We are under attack. We are being targeted, and it's not just individuals. Our democracy is under attack. Our Constitution is under attack. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. And I want for everybody that's watching across the nation to know that you are next. Minnesota is holding the line. And we can't hold it by ourselves. This is not a black people or white people or religion or age or any of these things. We are fighting for human rights. We are fighting for our humanity and our democracy. And nobody fought harder for that than Georgia. She is the ultimate professional. She is so intentional. But we saw after Alex was killed on Saturday, journalists were being tear gassed. King Demetrius, who's going to speak to you, has a flute on right now. They are not paying attention to passes, badges, and they're not paying attention to our democracy and our Constitution. And I want to tell y'all, we have to stand for something or fall for anything. This is a state of emergency, and I'm wondering where our leadership is. Where's Governor Walz? Where is Mayor Fry? Where are all of our representatives? And if you want to run for office and you're not standing with community, you don't have a shot. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of standing up here. And Georgia is a wife. She is a mother. She's a business owner. She's a journalist. She should not be in jail right now. And everybody should be outraged about that. This does not make any sense. This is real trauma. This is not a joke. Trump, this is not a show. This is not a game. This is people's real life. And I want everybody. The world is watching Minnesota once again. Once again, we're under the microscope because we're not being protected and we can't get it right. And it's not on the community. And nothing's burned to the ground. Y'all always making excuses. Y'all want to act like this is us against them. No, we're under attack. And the people have not even begun to fight back. We can't even record. We can't even stand. We can't even live. People can't leave their houses. People are losing their jobs. People are afraid. And Georgia had the courage to record it. And now she's arrested. Where is our constitutional rights? We are under attack and you all better wake up before it's too late to wake up. It's not a joke, it's not a drill. When journalists are getting arrested, you all better be afraid. This is a state of emergency. And not the same one from 2020. This is a different state of emergency. This is like any of us could get taken at any moment. They're coming for all of us. Anybody who has the courage to stand up and speak out. And to my believers, where is the faith community at? You all let Nakima and Chantel and William and all these people put their lives on the line saying the hypocrisy of a pastor also being the head of ICE in St. Paul. If Jesus was here, he would be flipping tables, so why aren't y'all? This is a different day. This is a different state of emergency. And none of us are safe. Journalists, none of y'all are safe. White people, black people, indigenous, Asian, nobody is safe. Georgia Ford, of all people, I would have never thought Georgia Ford would be arrested right now. She has kids, she has a husband, she has a family. This is not a drill or a joke. I'm gonna ask Georgia's daughter to introduce herself and this her husband and just say a couple words.
Hello, my name is Soraya Hammonds, and I'm sorry if I stutter or if I say anything too fast. This is my first time ever doing anything like this. Georgia Ford is my mom, and we are here to call for her immediate release. My mom has been a documenter and a member of the press for as long as I can remember being alive, for 17 years. My mom is being arrested for documenting what happened at City Church, and this is wrong. This goes against her First Amendment right as a journalist, and it's being challenged today. She is not a protester. She is not an activist. She is a mom working to provide for her children through the only way she knows how. Documenting and sharing stories of the community and truth of what's happening here every day in our state. This moment of history just doesn't affect me. It also affects my little sisters who had to wake up and comprehend at the ages of 7 and 8 why their mom had to be arrested today. My 7 and 8-year-old sister woke up today without a mom. My father woke up today without his wife. I'm demanding that my mom gets released The separation of families will never be right. Thank you.
I just want to, I'm going to keep it brief and short. I'm Ceriso Fort. I'm the husband of Georgia Fort. I'm going to keep it, like I said, brief and short. I really want to thank you all for coming out. And I want y'all to have courage and continue doing what y'all are doing, because I watch Georgia. I support her. You know, behind the scenes, a lot of stuff I'm on. You know, I'm there, I'm watching, I'm supporting her. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't understand what can go down to the point where
I don't
you gotta
understand it
arrest a journalist for doing their job. You know, she's just doing her work. She's not harming nobody, not hurting nobody. I mean, I know some individuals that hurt people that, you know, I don't understand that. You know, when it's that way, I understand, right? When someone's not, she's not harming no one. So I really, it hurts, you know what I'm saying, as I'm pulling off to take my 7 to 8 year old, my daughter, we driving, I'm getting stopped, 10 cars, come. I didn't want them to see this. They would sleep earlier. Now they gotta see this. Oh man, that wasn't cool, you know. So it's like understanding that what we up against right now is really affecting the human rights, and us as people, we gotta stand strong. We gotta continue to stay prayed up right now. In this time era, right now, what we're dealing with, we gotta stay prayed up. And I want to, like I said, once again, man, thank you all for coming out, and thank you all that's out there that's supportive of what we're doing. Thank you. God bless you.
Okay, the next person that I want to bring is the current president of the National Association of Black Journalists in Minnesota, Cherie Curry.
Also, again, thank you all for coming out. Cherie Curry, Sheree, Curry, Curry. I am co-president of the National Association of Black Journalists Minnesota chapter, and Georgia Ford is one of our vice presidents of this chapter, and we demand the immediate release of her for all charges to be dropped. She, as Harry had said earlier, she is an award-winning journalist. She has covered demonstrations throughout her career, including the protests that erupted after the murder of George Floyd. The First Amendment protects the press and enables journalists to be able to do their jobs, to be able to collect, publish, and disseminate information that is important for all of our readers, our listeners, our viewers to understand what's going on. And Georgia was doing her job. She had boots on the ground. It is very important that people like her, independent journalists especially, be protected. They do not have the same type of backing as an independent journalist as someone would who works for a media outlet. So we are outraged for this and for her family, and I hope all of you will feel the same who hears what happens to her and know that it is about attacking a journalist. It is attacking all of us as citizens. Thank you.
And I apologize because I'm going to mispronounce your last name. All right.
My name is Elisa Kuznetsov, Aleesakuz, N as in Nancy, E, T as in Tom, S-O-V as in Victor. I am the president-elect of the Minnesota Society of Professional Journalists. Our president couldn't be here today. The Minnesota Society of Professional Journalists strongly condemns the wrongful arrests of journalists Georgia Ford and Don Lemon for reporting on a church protest in St. Paul. Georgia Ford, as many have already said, is an Emmy award-winning journalist who has paved the way for independent journalism here in Minnesota. As a founder of Black Press and the Center for Broadcast Journalism, and a former member of our board, Georgia is a pillar of our Minnesota journalism community. She has a passion for making the profession more accessible and has mentored and trained countless young journalists. We are alarmed by the escalating actions by the Trump administration that attack freedom of the press. Journalists not only have the right, but the responsibility to observe and report events in the public interest. It is not illegal to document a protest against the federal government. The fact that the protest took place in a church does not negate journalists' First Amendment rights to report. the effort to punish independent reporting is an effort to weaken democracy. If Georgia and Don's cases proceed, it would seriously undermine both the freedom of the press and the rule of law. We urge the federal government to remember the importance of the First Amendment. The Minnesota Society of Professional Journalists has reported several acts of violence against journalists from federal law enforcement in the last month. The failure to stop these acts sets a dangerous precedent for censoring the truth. The Minnesota Society of Professional Journalists will continue its commitment to protect press freedom and advocate for any journalists in our state who experience a First Amendment violation. Thank you, and we'll have a full statement posted on our website, mmspj.org, later today.
We're going to hear from our current Minneapolis NAACP president.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Wilson, the current president of Minneapolis NAACP. And you've heard already what's been said. We definitely stand in solidarity with our journalist and specifically Georgia Fort, as she has been an integral part of providing the news for the Black community. That being said, I also want to say that what you're seeing now and what we're experiencing is a pivot away from what's happening with our democracy. And if we allow this to happen now, this is not a Republican, this is not a Democratic, this is not a black-white, as you already heard, this is a humanity issue. And what we're experiencing, you all, and you have to recognize it, even for the most people who are not even, brilliant or can't see clearly, this is blatant as it gets. Number 47 is out to be a dictator. And he is looking to take away all of our rights. Everyone who voted him in, he's voting you out. So what I would say, we have another election coming up. We need to prepare to vote, to get our voices heard, and to make sure that we're doing what's necessary to make sure our democracy stays a democracy and not a dictatorship. That being said, we're standing in support of Georgia Fort, and we're asking that she be released immediately. And at that point, I'll turn it back over. Thank you.
We've been talking about journalists being on the front line, and we see right now what's happening with Georgia, who's in federal custody. I got to say that one more time, because while we're here, not in custody, she's over there in custody. But you all, many of you, know exactly what we're talking about because you experienced it. But I have someone here who is wearing a boot on his foot because he was shot by federal agents while doing his job as a journalist. So with that being said, I'm going to ask King Demetrius to come speak. What's
I just want to let you all know how touched and moved I am by Georgia Fort and how she has always spoke powerful to truth. And like everyone said, she is an award-winning journalist. Let that sit right there. She has family. She has children who had to watch something as tomfoolery of this happening. Coming to her home in the broad daylight and trying to make like she is a criminal, like she did something that was totally off the Richter scale. Obama couldn't have did any of this, just so we clear. He wore a tan suit and America lost their damn mind. Journalists is being attacked on a day-to-day basis. We've seen Trump with his sycophant individuals who are basically discriminating on anybody. When you've seen people being dragged, especially women, being dragged, being tear gassed, being pepper sprayed. When you've seen a person discharging his firearm and saying, this is a beat, right? After he kills her, shoots her in the face. When you see an individual kicks a tail light, then several days later get gunned down, and there's no outrage, but yet you go back, and the January 6th thing that happened, you didn't have no energy for them, but peaceful protesters who went into a church and called a spade for what a spade was, you put the immediate force on them. Wow. And you put the immediate force.
As the journalist documented the incident.
The journalists that documented the incident that occurred and was doing their job, you immediately went after them. Georgia Fort indicated to 300,000 black women has lost their job. Now it's over 500,000 black women has lost their job since the administration has been in the White House. I want you all to understand something and understand something now. Our children will not forget your name. These ICE agents who are doing this here and all these other individuals who's making preposterous statements, we see you. We see the individuals who's being real quiet. We see you. But trust and believe me, we serve a higher power that looks high, sits high and looks low. Trust me, they will not get away with this. The shooting me in my foot, I'm just grateful that I still have my foot. Some people been shot in their eyes is out, their foot, they having trauma. Just think about what's gonna happen to our children. Our children is watching this. Who's gonna help us with our trauma? I would say the words of what Sonia Massey say, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
And now we're going to have representatives from AAJA.
Hi, I'm Alex Chip, and I'm the president of our local Asian American Journalists Association chapter. And
All right.
Hello, I'm Deanna Pistono, and I am the secretary of AAJA Minnesota.
we just want to say that AAJA stands with other news organizations here today and calls for the immediate release of Georgia Fort and the dropping of charges against her. We are observers and documenters of what goes on in our communities, including the exercise of the right to assemble and protest. The Constitution says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of people to assemble peaceably. The spirit of the Constitution, the same fundamental document that people bring up in a multitude of political discussions, is not upheld when journalists are arrested for observing and covering protests. So, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to hear from a couple other people. Brother Jelani from CARE, Minnesota.
Jelani Hussein, Executive Director of the Council of American Islamic Relations. First and foremost, I want to take an opportunity just to tell the family of Georgia Fort that your mom is an amazing person.
Yes.
Not only that, the fact of the matter, we just spent the day with her yesterday. She was covering the press conferences and all of the different things that are happening. And that's who Georgia Fort is. And what they did today is they inched her name to the unerasable history books for generations to know your mom because of her bravery and because of her standing up for her community. America, wake up.
Wake up.
Is under attack. Our Constitution is under attack. And Minnesota is the front lines to defend democracy. They will not be able to arrest.
Let me pause this for a second. I'm not going to play all of this, but I did want to play some of this.
All of us. Come on. Because in this moment, this is a trap for them. They thought that we would be soft, but we are not. The attack on the press, the attack on peaceful protesters must end.
Yep.
And right now, as many of you probably have learned, not only is Don Lemon arrested, Georgia Fort is arrested, but also two other civil rights leaders in Minnesota arrested, Jamel Lundy and Troy Heron Cruz. Two people that Minnesota knows.
Yeah.
And many of you know who have stood up tall for their community. And today they are being targeted for standing up for their community. Yeah. Shame on America. Shame. And shame on the Trump administration.
Yeah. Shame.
But this is something that is interesting to say to all of you, is that they started out by targeting my community, the Somali American community. They didn't stop there. They took Renee and Alex Preddy. They didn't stop there. They went and targeted our civil rights leaders, Nakima Levy Armstrong and Chantel Lott. It didn't stop there. They went for our journalists, Georgia Fort and Don Lemon. And I want you to know something, America. It has always been the black community in this country that has stood tall and have paid the highest price for all Americans. For all Americans. And in this This moment is two black journalists who are taking it for all the journalists in America. I have a message for the journalists in this country. Stop pandering to this administration. Stop giving them the voice that they don't need. You have allowed them to create headlines that are false and lies. They are lying to the American public about everything that is happening. And you have allowed for them to get away with lies every single day. It is time to stand up. If you didn't stand up for the Somali American community or our civil rights leaders, you should stand up for your colleagues in journalism. In this moment right now, we are demanding justice, a swift justice. And I call upon the judges and the people in the courts of America. They are coming for you next. It is stand for you to uphold the law and the Constitution of the United States of America. This moment will pass, and we will be better for it. We're in the fight. We're not leaving the fight. And I'm going to let you know we are winning. Because what they did to Georgia Ford will not stand in any American court system or to Don Lemons. So I ask every single one of you in this moment, be outraged, but be organized. And we are expecting people to show up here at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock to stand up for our brothers and sisters right now who are being detained unjustly. All because they stood up for us, but most importantly, they stood up for the Constitution of the United States. Today's a dark day in American history. But tomorrow, we will define what that history will be by Americans standing up for journalism in this country. For far too long, many of you have been kicked out of the White House. You've allowed for that to happen, the lies to come out. But I'll tell you something about Minnesota. God chose us to carry the burden of America and to fight for justice. And it's not by accident that they took Georgia Ford, because she's an amazing, amazing journalist. Not only did she care deeply about her community, but she went to become independent journalist. And she is one of those people that many of you will learn about her. She's passionate. She cares deeply about this community, and I have seen her work every single day. We're proud of you, Georgia. We're proud of her family. We're proud of Don Lemon. We're proud of all the people that they are arresting, because all they're doing is inching their names into the books of history for many to remember the courage that Georgia had, the courage that Don Lemon had, the courage that Nakima had, and Chantel, and Jamel, and Terry Hearns. And we say to all of them, we will fight for your justice by any means necessary.
Okay.
We're going to the Pascal show.
I built a budgeting app at Base 44. Nina just built an app.
So we can all build apps now? Work for very long. This should be a very quick in and out type of situation.
This here again, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Pascal show. Let's listen.
And either he's going to go back in jail, which I doubt, but he's going to have lots to talk about. He's going to have so much to talk about, by the way. You realize that he's going to have so much to talk about on that red carpet now. So as he's talking, to these artists, at the Grammys, there's going to be so many people being like, "Are you okay? I heard about what happened, Don. Are you okay?" So I doubt that they're going to sit there and go that he can't leave, like that he's going to be locked up for good. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be able to bail out, and then he'll be free. Hopefully he will be at the Grammys on Sunday doing what he loves to do, talking to people, right? So that's interesting that the initial hearing is basically a little over an hour from now. So that's good to know. Thank you so much. Whimsical Chaos, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you so much. General Genobi, what's up? Thank you so much for the love. Man, there are files that DJT, auction 14 littles, at Mar, and kids were there, and Elon, look, no president should ever have a sniff of these allegations to their name. This has been going on for decades. Yes, I agree 110%, and yet no one's looking at this and going, what the hell's going on here? This is crazy. These are crazy allegations. No one really is. No one's sitting here saying like, what a travesty. This is, like, I'm not saying, I'm saying the administration, the powers that be, right? Attorney General Pam Bondi isn't sitting there going, clutching her pearls and being shocked. No. There's no added investigation into any of this crap. Zero, zilch, nada, zippity doo-dah. What the heck is going on here? That's very strange, don't you think? I'd like to think that's a bit strange. Medusa, thank you so much for the love, for the super stickers, for both super stickers. I really appreciate it. Freddie, thank you so much for becoming a member. You're just like Freddie. Please consider becoming a member by hitting that join button down below. Support if you can. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated, okay? And, of course, Crisis Cast says, I think it's time to stand up. I feel like a lot of people are starting to stand up. I know that you've made some super chats in the past that sound a bit aggressive, and I don't know if that's what you mean. But right now, there's a lot of people that are standing up. A lot of people are. Now, if you notice, the kids are doing walkouts right now. National walkouts and strikes that are going on. People are saying, don't buy nothing today. Don't go anywhere where you have to spend money. Don't do any of that in your local cities, in your local towns, right? Walk out. Schedule a walkout of your school, blah, blah, blah. Against ICE. F this stuff. F ICE. That kind of thing. So people are standing up. People are really standing up. Is it loud enough? No. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a negative Nancy, y'all. But no, I don't think it's loud enough. Or, no. Let me say that again. I don't mean that as like, I'm not trying to cite anything. What I mean is like, do you think that the powers that be are hearing this? No. Sure, they acknowledge it, but is it going to change anything? No. Trump's worried about his following. He's worried about his base. He's worried about his polls. He's worried about his midterms. The only way that the people can really make him feel anything is voting. It's those midterms. Because he's not listening to this. He's not listening to all the demonstrations out in the streets. He knows what's going on. And then he sits there and says that these people are insurrectionists, that they're domestic terrorists, etc. So we can sit here all day long, angrily pumping our fists in the air in unison. Sure, we should be doing that. But at the same time, we're doing it to a person who's not listening. We're singing a song and he doesn't even know the song. You see what I'm saying? We're all, a good portion of us are all on the same page in the same chapter, and he ain't even in the same book. So if we were to do something, if the people out there were to get together and fight, stand up, it's like the only way we could really make a reaction or make this happen is if we were to show that through our voting. That's where our real power is.
Yep.
At least that's what we like to believe. Our real power is there. And that is what needs to be done. Let's see. Yeah, we got to vote. We got no other choice but to put that to vote. We have no other choice. That's all we got. We got to vote. We got to vote, ladies and germs. Sure, it's annoying, but that's the only way we can really, really make him know how we feel is through voting. Now, let me see this here. Let's see. Hold on. Dang, man. Yeah, the news be newsing out here today. So one thing is for sure, there's supposed to be a press conference here in about 5 minutes. And I may play a little bit of it
not the whole thing, because unfortunately I gotta hop off here. I got things to do, but then I want to come back for the Don Lemon. When he comes back out. Now that's the thing. If he does speak, or his representatives speak for him, we will be here to talk about that for sure. But yeah, even TMZ right now is reacting and talking about the claims of this of this little performing. You know what I'm saying? That with Epstein there and all that. Okay, people are really talking about that ish as well. So let me see here. Let me see.
See if this guy has anything else for us.
Because they're supposed to be. Shoot. Yeah, where is that press conference? She's allegedly supposed to have a press conference with Tulsi Gabbard. Hold on, Tulsi.
Let me see what Lovely T has for us, y'all. Hold on.
The Timber King Mill, we've owned ours for 12 months, and it has...
It's going to start here in a second, y'all. Hold on. Okay. Oh, she's still... Hold on. Speed this up.
People felt like he did call in the National Guard on, I believe, Sunday, and they were out there with the people. They were giving out hot chocolate and donuts, and they had on neon vests so they could differentiate themselves from ICE. And that was very much needed. They needed to show solidarity with the people. But when you go into social media, the people on the right were upset and saying, this is BS. They're siding with these lawless protesters and this and that. I think he's having to walk a very fine line. What people don't understand is that there's something very special about Minnesota, the way they run. They've never voted red, ever, like since the 70s. They've always voted blue. They are a helping state. They are a state that really helps the refugee community. This is why so many, we always say, who's the homeboy from New York? He's in the Discord. Isaiah. Because he lived in Minnesota before. That Minnesota was a testing ground. When they were bringing in all the refugees from Laos, all the Hmong people in like the late 70s, 80s, and then in the 90s it was the Somalians. They brought in these people because we had destabilized their governments. So it was a payback to these folks. And that's why we have a huge influx of Hmong people and Somali people here in the Twin Cities. Minnesota is one of those generous states that really go above and beyond to help folks. And so to see that people can't even get the help that they normally would get because the federal funding has just been frozen is insane. People who have jobs with DHS, or if you're if you care for people, like let's say you're, I forgot the name, but if you care for folks, let's say you're caring for like your mother because she's sick, or handicapped individuals, all that money's been frozen. People who are used to getting a paycheck are being told, try back in 3 weeks. So you've had people applying for emergency assistance, for housing, to get their rent paid. They're telling them all of that is frozen. Minnesota is the type of state that if you lose your job, as long as you can show them a letter, receipts showing that you lost your job and you need a 1 month grace, you're allowed to get 1 year of emergency. You're allowed to get emergency relief
once a year, is what I'm trying to say. So once a year, you can contact for emergency relief. Well, they will pay your rent. They will pay your mortgage. They will get you some type of assistance, get you food. All of those services are cut. February 1st is tomorrow. I have several people that I know personally who do not know how they're going to pay their rent because they have not been paid. This is starting to have an effect on the hospital systems. The oldest hospital in the Twin Cities, HCMC in downtown Minneapolis, they're scared they may have to shut down. They announced that the other day. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that federal funding is what keeps a lot of these hospitals going. It's what keeps the lights on. It's that Medicaid that's being paid for patients and the Medicare for older people. Because everybody just can't afford flat out insurance. You have people who are dilating in the middle of their living room, 8 centimeters, they're scared to go to the hospital. And doctors are having to leave to go do home visits. They're currently begging for midwives to volunteer their services because you have women who are near birth who are scared to go to the hospital to give birth. It is that bad up here. So I believe, with saying all that, he is he sees the writing on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And he's walking a very fine line.
Very much so.
Let me play a snippet of the interview that he did yesterday. I had recorded it and I posted it in the Discord. So we all watched it this morning. His words were very telling. Give me just a second. So this is just to answer your question.
This, I don't know if these guys are on the streets right now here in Minneapolis.
Also, there's been reporting they were placed on administrative leave. You still don't know the names of these officers.
No. And I got to be honest with you. To be generous in this, I'll do my Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. I can't verify this, so I don't trust them. I don't trust them. They're on administrative leave. And at this point in time, I told Tom, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. But unless I see a reduction in these folks on the streets, I'm going to have to say that to my folks. So look, we all think we all want to avoid that, but I think the reality has sunk in this week. If you thought you could pass this by and you thought there was nothing there, I mean, is this a Fort Sumter, John Brown moment? Where are we at on this? And we're doing everything right. And I have said it time and time again. The way you win.
All right. Did y'all catch that? He said, is this a Fort Sumter, John Brown moment? Do you understand that something woke me up in the middle of the night and told me you need to go to South Carolina? That's where you need to spend your New Year's. You need to go to Fort Sumter and see it for yourself. Who goes to South Carolina for New Year's?
I'm going to pause that and go back to Pascal. See, has he had this interview come up yet?
If you're looking for a reliable power backup system for your home and you're considering a gas generator, let me show you.
Okay, Pascal's gonna come back. Well, I can go back into Lovely T then. Come on. I'm gonna play a little bit more of this. And after I play a little bit more of this, I'm gonna be done.
I did. And now my governor is saying this is a Fort Sumter moment, and he invoked the name John Brown. And if you know about John Brown, you know about John Brown. So I think he sees the writing on the wall. That didn't fall on deaf ears. For y'all who don't know, Fort Sumter is where the first shot of the Civil War was let off. that is where the Civil War started. We were just there for New Year's. I don't think that was a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe your ancestors, God, whatever you want to call it, they come to you and they speak to you in dreams. And they tell you things and you don't understand it at the time. Your spiritual will feel things before it will ever hit physically. But I believe there was a reason why I went to Fort Sumter a few weeks ago. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that.
I thought that maybe there probably would be a little bit more, but this time it's really um, it's really not much more I can tell y'all at this time. But I'll try to come back later. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.